public comment. On to number 6, which is new business. Item A is the Roscommon County 2021 budget. And I will turn that over to Controller Jody Valentino, please.
Hi. Wow. I'm kind of flipping through it. No, you don't need to do this anymore. No, poor Julie, I'm passing things out and she thinks I'm forgetting things. So just to give you a quick and the ugly of where we are for 2021. It's not good and it's not bad. It is in general just status quo. That is the best that I can give you. We are in general trending to be at or just slightly below revenue collections. We have a decline in our budgeted fine fees and collections for the courts. That is offset currently by the budget revenues in the clerk ROD. The Register of Deeds has had they're busy. I don't know how else to say it. She's up roughly 12% right now above anticipated. So go ROD. Yeah, with 3.5 months to go and lots of sales still moving forward. So it's a pretty good deal. People have been, I think, trying to anticipate increases in mortgage rates and trying to get as many sales through as they can, sell their home for higher rates than they currently are. Just to give you an idea, so for the transfer tax, $162,000 was budgeted as of the end of August, because I didn't have all of the revenues in yet as of the end of, July, because I didn't have all the revenues in yet for August. It was $148,000 of 162 budgeted. For recording fees, $200,000 was the budget, and they were at 152,717. So we don't even have August in yet. So my guess is you're probably closer to 90%.
I like that Mary pretty. $1,000 under budget.
Yeah. So basically, Michelle's office and their turnarounds and quick turnarounds is helping us offset those fines and fees collections that we are lacking on the court side as well. On a positive note, we don't have any departments in the general fund that are over budget. As a matter of fact, we don't have any departments over expenditure budgets at all. That is kind of our normal. I think people trend. Even Phil's IT department is on budget, and that's the one occasion where we've had like some massive IT project that somebody forgot to tell us about for the budget. Normally what happens is the state tells the courts that they must do something, but then doesn't give us money for it, but we have to figure it out. A little bit more specifics for 2001. The report that I gave you was actually a cash summary, and that is as of 8/31 of 2021. On the back page, the total cash, this is what I balance with Rebecca too. So when she comes and gives her quarterly report, this report and Rebecca's investments and banking statements all match up to the general ledger report for this. Our current cash is at $18,460,970.45. We are roughly $4 million above where we were last year. However, $2,332,000 of that is the American Rescue Plan Act. So really we're at $16,084,000 when you subtract that out, which is still $1 million increase over last year and roughly the year before for overall cash. General fund. We are always this time of year negative cash balance, and that is simply because we don't collect the big millage collections for the general county until the end of the year, and then you'll see that increase up again. Of course, that'll be offset by more transfers out, but that's there. Other ones that you normally see that are negative, specialty courts, they're always waiting for reimbursements back. But it will full in court, same with friend of the court, always waiting for reimbursements. Landfill will need to have a little bit more money transferred in to finish out the year. We have pumped every other week this year, which has been great. The answer to the question is no, we always have to keep money aside for the landfill. it will not be until Warren has great-great-grandchildren, till we will be free of that. So that'll be where we are. Law library is, still has half of their transfer coming to them, so they're not out of money yet. They have additional allocations coming as well. Child care fund has additional allocations still coming from us. They are trending, as Dawn reported a few weeks ago, right where they should be as far as expenditures. The 3 months, 3.5 months left to go basically for the year. But we do have the 17-year-old, so I will be curious to see how quickly we receive reimbursements from the state at 100% for that. My biggest concern is our juvenile detention center. We did meet about 5 weeks ago, and they're capable of having 7 youth at a time. Traditionally, during COVID, they can only have 5. They are pretty regularly filled at 4 to 5 at this time. One of the issues is, of course, COVID with separation, new requirements, check-ins, check-outs, have to have testings before they're allowed. Those are all state requirements from us. The other portion of that is we are not capable of taking some of the more violent, or trying to think of the best, this mentally unstable youth, due to the fact that the status of our juvenile detention center is under such state laws, as we've talked about before, where the hands-on or being able to do more than verbally discuss or try to calm is not something that you can do in our detention center. So it's not a good year again. They are currently $88,693 in the hole. Yes, sir.
Just as a note on this, I go back far enough that I can remember when we first built the juvenile detention facility. The reason is we were spending $250,000 a year to house the juveniles outside the county. $250,000 a year. We had nothing to show for that, and there was no performance requirements on the youth that we sent out. The evidence-based, whatever you call that stuff, that we were getting anything, positive from sending them out of the county. So anything is better than nothing as far as I'm concerned. $88,000, it's better than $250,000 with nothing to show for it. We're employing people in the county. We're keeping the youths in the county, keeping them closer to the family. So I understand $88,000 is $88,000, but from where we were when we started, we'll just have to weather through this rough time, and we'll get back to a good place. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm gonna offset some of that. Most of the youth that we have are not ours. If we could be staffed for just our youth, but these are not. This is because we are a temporary hold location. They're normally there less than 2 weeks before they find or are transferred out to another facility. Alpena is a big user, Otsego County, Grand Traverse. I mean, they come from everywhere. The general sequence is that they are not doing temporary detentions. There is a lot more put them on a tether and leave them in a safe home environment. That is more of the trend with youth. I don't even know. It's no longer, it's not punitive, it's reformative. Therefore, removing them from a home environment to place them into detention center is less and less frequented. The state has also done a big push on that in the last few years as well. So I think that's part of the harm. I think what we need to do is probably sit down as a committee and really look at where we're getting youth, how many we have in. They're not overexpending. They should be at roughly 60% total expenditures. They're at 50%. So they're watching every penny. They always have. This is it's not a good year. That being said,
Well, my only question is how long can we continue this, can sustain this? we can't, you know, let's face reality. We're getting more and more severe cases of that we can't handle. I'm not going to say that our facility's outdated, but we're not equipped to handle some of this stuff that's coming down the pike at us right now.
And I think that's maybe something that the committee needs to
I
sit down.
think that's what I think the committee needs to look down and take a look at that. And I have no question. I have, the management over there they're doing everything because we've met with them a number of times now, and they're right out there on top of things and they're watching every penny. But you know, we're taking care of other counties' use at our expense is what it appears.
Right.
So
And that's where we're at is.
my question is what, you know, I know it was 250,000 years ago from when I got here, but you know, how long can we keep dumping $90,000 down a hole?
Right. And
So
where we're
that's
at.
my feeling on it.
Yeah, where we're at right now with 2021 is obviously this is not, we did not budget to allocate any money to juvenile detention. So I would tell you probably by the end of the year, you'd be looking like at $100,000 that we will have to find in our budget to allocate. You are just slightly over 15% of a fund balance. This is on my list of things to talk about, so I will get there. But that was probably one of my bigger ones to sit there and talk to you about. One of the other ones that we need to pay attention to, and it is actually for the first time since I have been here, so in 7 years, that at this point they are not in need of additional allocation by the end of August, is the airport. They are sitting right now on about $5,000. They can finish out the year without an additional allocation. However, knowing what you know about juvenile detention, you cannot put any more money into any other funds from the general fund, because we need to save every dollar we can to pay off juvenile detention at the end of the year. So I'll move.
Jody,
Yes.
quick question. Are we collecting the max that we can?
Yeah, we'll have to review and see where they are. And that's one of the things we need to do. We did a few years ago, I think 3 years ago, we went through and reviewed our costs versus what we were billing. So we'll need to look through that again.
COVID has a lot to do with it. Why can't we take that 88,000 out of the other fund?
The ARP?
Yes, because COVID has a lot to do with it.
So we may be able to reimburse out of the $500,000 that the Board of Commissioners approved to be set aside. That'll be something that we do need to look at and look at the rules and see, because that is kind of an institute. If nothing else, reimburse them for a portion of like the PPE.
Because we're going from 7 to 5, so maybe we could get the money from there to help the general.
I will look at that.
Thank you.
Positive note, the jail is actually trending at their revenues, which again, doesn't normally happen. So you don't have that.
I was gonna say, we don't have that on
No,
here.
you don't have that budget. Their budgeted expenses are about 2% lower than expected. So the fact that they're actually at revenues and at expenses is huge. So I do appreciate that. I know that Lieutenant Beck does everything she can to make sure that the expenses are watched and that revenues are where they are budgeted for. What I will tell you is to be cognizant of the fact as well that federal prisoners bring a different set of tensions next door. So we thank everybody for dealing with that, because obviously our federal prisoners are a different class of prisoners. And honestly, just for selling pizza and just variations of things that they try to bring in. So 40% of overtime at the end of August, Ken. So they are under overtime budgets. Sheriff for the road patrol is actually at about 33% of what he budgeted for overtime, and he has no idea how that happened. But hunting season is coming upon us soon, and we tend to use a lot of overtime there, so we'll see that. So our current allocations, like I said, for other entities, including our internal funds and external funds, are on track. Like I said, airport is, currently not in need. Child care fund is currently not looking like they'll need additional allocations. The big one is juvenile detention. My caveat for that is knowing what we know about juvenile detention, never knowing for sure what we'll be able to offset or not under that grant, simply because there are pretty strict restrictions for how to calculate lost revenues, et cetera. We cannot add any more expenditures this year. We cannot give anybody else money. We cannot lessen our revenues. You have a 15.4% fund balance. This board passed a resolution and must stick with the resolution for a 15% fund balance. So any changes you make to the budget for now have to be directly from a different department. You're going to have to say, we are reducing expenditures in the administrator's office by $1,500 in order to offset this expense. And then we must stick to it, because there's no pot of money to pull from. We are finally at our 15%. I inherited a budget when I first started that decreased our fund balance in order to balance the budget down to 11%. Looking back 5 years prior to that, everybody thought there would be this big rebound and we'd go back up to where the market and the taxable values are. We're pretty much so at a good steady pace with taxable value right now. We're not going to see that climb, God forbid, because if we see that climb, we're going to see that fall again. So keeping that 15% is wholly important to being able to fund some of these side projects that come about. So that is kind of my thing. That being said, when you have outside entities that come to you for an increase, Central Michigan District Health was here today, 3%. It's not a ton of money. However, that will come directly out of your fund balance for this year. The issue with them asking for additional funding is their fiscal year does not coordinate with ours. So if you would like to approve an additional 3% and have me budget it for January 1, 2022, with the new budget comes in, that's great. You are pulling money directly from an established budget that's tight if you do it as of October 1. I don't know how things happen in a more timely manner. I think they need to predict a year and a half out for us when they want additional funding. But that is my caveat. And again, it may be only $2,000 for the end of the year, but it's $2,000 that has to come from somebody else's budget. So throwing that out there. Lastly, it's not a bad year. 2021 is, sometimes we have years where I am very fearful of what we're going to look like. But knowing that we have that 15% fund balance and having that weight off of the commissioners of making sure you're fiscally secure in that area. If things continue on trend as they are right now with no changes to the budget, I think that we'll be pretty good. So there's a caveat for 2021. And I have to wait for the chairman to tell me to go to 2022.
Okay, any questions in regards to what Jody was just talking about in regards to the 2021 budget?
Any idea how much our legal expenses defend the Childs lawsuit?
I don't, because it is currently run through Michigan Municipal for our liability insurance. I can add that up and get you a figure though, because I do get like billings billed to them, probably close to like 25,000 by now. But without adding up all the bills over the last 3 years, I don't know that figure off the top of my head. Of course, our liability insurance premiums are increasing this year, but
So that's $25,000 out of the general fund?
No, that comes from our liability insurance. So currently the Chill versus Roscommon County is through MMRMA is sponsoring our coverage for that. Initially, last year and this year, we did have some out-of-pocket costs. I want to say those were close to like $7,500. So, I mean, there's your money for the Central Michigan District Health, but just a sidebar, but I'll get you that figure. Add a few things up.
Hey, anybody else got anything in regards to the 2021 budget so far?
No, good job, Jody. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to item B, Roscommon County 2022 budget. I'm assuming that you have got some dates for us, right? All right.
Yep, I'm probably already running behind today, but I'll catch up. So we are looking at everything starting with budget workspace. The department has an election officials on September 9th, which is tomorrow. Like I said, I've been working on those spreadsheets. You know, it's basically every employee by every department, by every fund. Their anticipated wages, changes, retirement, all of those line items, which is probably about everybody's budget. So that actually is almost a 2-week project for me where I concentrate more on that than anything else, and then I still do it. Despite the fact that Noelle looks over them and that Michelle's like, oh, calculate my social security at 20% instead of 6%. So the timeline will be that they'll have those for the next 2 weeks to work on. We will jump back then to having a general budget and finance committee at 9 o'clock on September 30th.
We move that time. I got a doctor's appointment that morning.
Okay.
I mean, to later. I mean,
Yeah, just let me know what time.
11 o'clock, okay?
On the 30th?
Yeah.
Okay.
September 30th.
At that point, if there is any input on the budget submitted by the department heads and elected officials, being that maybe they have requested an increase for a specific line item that we are not 100% sure that we're going to be able to fund, or we are looking at them to recalculate revenues based on a 5-year average, that sort of information would go back to the department heads and elected officials. So that is what the Budget and Finance Committee will be looking over on the 30th. That's basically, I get all the sheets back on the 23rd. Everything gets inputted and reviewed for accuracy, and then the Budget and Finance Committee sits down to see where we're at. That's when I go, hey, I'm looking for $1 million to balance the budget this year.
Before we get real deep into this, Ken and I sit on the budget and finance, unless anybody else would like to volunteer to get on.
You guys are doing a good job.
Okay, thank you. I figured, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great, guys.
You guys are just too good to us. Okay,
If there are any revisions needed, we'd ask that those revised budgets will be back October 6th to administration. And if needed, we'd meet again, Budget and Finance would meet again at 10 a.m. on the 7th. Look at that, I went from 9 to 10.
we got an agenda meeting at 9 that day.
Correct, which is probably why I went with 10.
Okay, that one's good with me.
If we
Right.
cannot hassle things out and there are issues or problems, if a department head or elected official doesn't like the information that's been reported back, we will schedule individual meetings for October 11th if we need them.
Okay.
Then that gives us a whole 2 weeks for checking and rechecking.
Budget and finance with a question mark.
Yes. So we would be looking at then October 25th. That should be returned, not retired, but that's a good Southern way of saying it. So the budgets would be returned to the departments and elected officials for final review. That's where they're doing 2 things. First, they're verifying that everything they gave me is what I inputted, and I didn't make any changes that they're going to yell at me about and have it inform them about. And secondly, they're looking to make sure that instead of 1,000, I didn't put 10,000. So these things happen. It's a big budget, lots of pages, lots of data entry. The 27th, we are down for a CAL, Budget and Finance, and we would review any of the budget motions needed. Traditionally, that's when we'd be looking at setting whatever the overall raise may or may not be, the amounts that we would be asking for employees to pay towards their health insurance benefits, those types of things. So, on November 1st, that's the week that I have to make sure that I give the public notice of our hearing to the paper, which brings us back into November. One of my favorite months. We would then be at the meeting on November 10th, would be the public hearing for the actual 2022. And we would have all of those motions on for vote after the public hearing. Obviously, the public hearing happens prior to the motion. So if somebody sways you to vote yes or no, during that, or put something on hold, we have time to do that. But that is where your motions would come on. And then we have another budget and finance, and that'll be closer for information on where we're at January 2021 as well. 22. Oh my God. Need another year back, Michelle. Then the next day we're closed because we all need rest. And it's Veterans Day. So Ken will have a flag somewhere, which I appreciate. The 24th will be the actual day that you would vote to adopt the budget. So if between the 10th and the 24th, there's anything that needs to be changed, you can throw a special meeting in for budget and finance to make changes to the budget. Then we get to be closed again for Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving. You are all done with the budget at that point for 2022. We move into December. The really big thing in December is final claims and accounts will be done on the 17th. Those all would have to be turned into our office by December 17th, so that then Julie could have them all ready to go by the 20th, so I can come up with final budget adjustments needed on December 21st for you to approve on the 22nd. You're gonna be back then, right? Okay, good. And then we get holidays, so and that's it. And then I got a couple points for 2021 as well, but
Do we have anybody coming in part-time to help?
we do not. I think we'll be okay. If not, I'll cry, and then you'll know that maybe we should call somebody.
I asked her about that yesterday.
But right now, fiscally for right now, my answer is no. It is not the smartest decision that we can do. Julie and I have discussed if she decides that she goes up to it, well, she's not allowed to come back to work, but she wants to. Some of this budget stuff, there's things that she could do if she wants to. If she doesn't want to, we'll do it. As Noelle says, we've done it before and we'll do it again. Not a big deal. I'm not going through a divorce this year and she's not pregnant. So,
All right.
good year.
I'm sure I feel.
But you don't have to. That's just because I anticipate knowing you, as I'm learning, that you're going to be killing your husband and your daughter, so maybe I'll keep you busy. Here's what I already know about the 2022 budget. The first thing is, as I spoke, we will be budgeting for 6% benefit increases for everything. So we will have that coming down the track.
That's our health insurance.
Health insurance, dental, and vision. So,
Okay, all three of them. Okay,
yeah, all three of them will end
All
up
right.
looking at probably about a 6% increase. I also know that we've got an 11% increase in our defined benefits, and we will be losing one person, potentially, two people, at the end of this year, one at the beginning of next year, that currently contribute to the defined benefit, which helps offset what the county pays. So again, our portion is going to grow larger as we have more retirees coming in. Thanks, Phil. You've earned it though. So that'll be another bigger chunk of money. So that's probably about an 11% increase over where we are now. The second portion of that is that the Wage and Salary Committee finished last month on their review of all of our comparable counties, where they are going for 2022 and where they are currently at. They review all of the positions. They get the current wages for those positions, current wage scales. and compare them to what the county currently sits at 2021. That being said, what they are recommending is a 3% increase on the wage scale. We are lower than we were before because other counties they had hiring issues at the beginning of this year that we did not encounter. And a portion of that is we were lucky. We didn't have turnover. And a lot of that is because the Board of Commissioners did commit to keeping people on payroll. So I think that there was more trust earned from the staff in wanting to stay here and wanting to continue to report the county. However, it has put us slightly behind other counties as well. So we'll see where we go with that. And that's currently what I'm working on in those wage sheets right now and what that looks like. One other thing for 2022, we are running out of homegrown employees that grew into positions. Trish leaving is a very good example. Trish just happened to be somebody that hired in here that had experience in land surveying. Her and her husband had a land survey company. She could run circles around our equalization director and our assistant equalization director when it comes to reading tax descriptions and legal descriptions. And we were able to utilize that for a process that's tax certification in the treasurer's office. We don't have that anymore. So now you've got, everybody clustering to try to figure out how to do that. Phil is a good example. So we've already put out the GIS. We knew that was going to happen. That's something that we are now budgeted into that we started in 2021. Good, that leaves us one solid position. That is our next issue. So we are blessed in the fact that we have a IT technician who is paid at a very low part-time salary, but donates about 20 hours a week to us unpaid. There is no way that we are going to be able to function that IT department with a real part-time person and one full-time person. So that's going to be an area that we need to budget for 2 full-time people in. Additionally, I have had the request to budget in for emergency management going full-time, which has come from 2 commissioners and outside staff. So we will put that in and see where we go. And there's a very good chance that we may be looking at trying to pull a part-time person into equalization. Jamie and Allison rotate in and out. With not even talking about the tax certification piece of it, I think they are much busier than they realized and are swimming underwater at this point.
Yeah, their desk.
Yes, so that is something to look at as well. So those are the hurdles. So you hired me to take care of Roscommon County and Roscommon County's budget. I think I do a pretty good job of looking outside of just our walls and trying to work on the community as a whole. But that being said, at some point in time, we have to cut the cord where we continue to, I akin it to people say, quit sending all of your troops across the border to fight wars that aren't ours to fight. We have to start looking at how do we bolster up what we currently have, or we're going to start losing functions and abilities. We discussed looking at what it would cost to outsource IT. It didn't save us any money, and would not have somebody on site. So that's the kind of thing like, okay, we can look at those, but at some point in time, when do we quit? It also, IT is my good example just because it's on my mind right now. It also puts in, there's things that Phil and Pat do for neighboring entities. that have questions, concerns, comments, Northern Michigan Community Action Agency, or, our TAC uses them for their IT school, other agencies around us that utilize them. COA can stop in and ask them questions, can call when they're having problems. So we support people through those types of functions. So I guess, we're to that point where we have to decide which doors we shut and which doors we open to the public. And I know I say this every year, but it gets worse and worse every year. Okay, I'm done with my depression.
Well, how many, yes, I'll direct this at Phil since he's over there, but how many outside places do we have that you're servicing?
Yeah.
Townships, I've had calls from other IS departments. I think maybe twice a week. Maybe, we just in some small way with somebody else.
And it's
I mean,
great.
is that something that we can charge for? I guess that's where I'm
Not
going.
really.
I'm just looking at finding some money, okay?
That one I can't see where it would add up.
Okay, all right, okay. I just gotta throw it out there.
Bill, when you started, did we still have dial-up modems?
Yeah, you didn't even have that. We did dial-up modems and just rolling into the Y2 case.
I remember that. I was at my supermarket at 12 o'clock to make sure everything would
Yeah.
click over for nothing.
It was a different IT program.
Yeah,
A long ways.
okay, we got our challenges in front of us in this budget then, don't we? But we'll get through them. Anybody have anything else to add? In regards to what Jody was talking about, the 2022 budget? Nobody's volunteering to jump on and take Ken's spot or my spot, right? Just wanted to make sure. Okay. Item number 7, there are no motions or resolutions, so we're on to item number 8, public comment, please.
Here you go, Phil.
I'm settled down now.
You're now settled down now? Okay. All right, item number 9, adjournment, please.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.